This is a test of the Boundary Park alert system.
Hello and welcome to the Boundary Park alert system. Nice of you to join us, Andy. Finally.
I mean, that's a bit cheeky, that, isn't
it? Last week it was the Chemical Brothers. This week it was a reunion of an old club night that I used to go to back in the day, the 28th anniversary. So that's how old I am. And it was cracking night, brilliant night. But it was a late one, and I needed a little bit of wiggle room this afternoon just to get myself back into, full fettle. So thank you for your patience, gentlemen. How are you, Andy?
Yeah, I'm all right. It's felt like a bit of a non-event this weekend, hasn't it? Really.
Yeah.
I listened to the game. It sounded pretty turgid, really, and we weren't really in it. And you're out of the cup, and I was kind of emotionless a little bit, if I'm honest.
Well, shall we introduce the guest? Because our guest was there yesterday. I had the privilege of being there in the person.
Now, he's coming back for his second appearance, right? And on his first appearance was last season when we were getting the guests to fill out their answers to the three questions, the intro questions. I remember reading them and thinking, yeah, these answers are decent. This will be a good one to introduce. And then for some unknown reason, I couldn't tell you now, I didn't appear on that episode. It was down to you and Dave to do it. And
right.
Because you're both a pair of hopeless buggers, you didn't go to the folder that I'd got the answers in and read them out.
Okay.
So
it's your job, so we just left it for this time, Andy.
We left it this time, yeah. But I've since forgotten what the answers to the questions were, so I can't remember them. But I just remember at the time. So I've built it up now that if this could be a monumental failure, or we leave it to our guest to add some creative license. But I'm going to fire the questions at him. So when was your first game?
Well, my first game was, I think it was about 1982 season, 83 or something like that. I vaguely remember it. We played Sunderland, I think, and I vaguely remember Mick Quinn scoring a penalty. I think it was a 2-2 draw or something like that, but very sketchy memories of that. Yeah.
So when's the first time you distinctly remember going then?
I think the games I remember properly going is 86, 87. So the playoff season on the plastic. I remember a couple of Friday night games. I think we played Reading or something like that. Won about 4-2 or 4-0. Shrewsbury, I remember about the same time. Big handsome home wins. Got the bug from that, I think. And then through the late 80s. That's when I just mithered all the time. I used to live in Burnley back then, so my dad used to have me every 2 weeks. So I used to come over and pray that Oldham were at home because he'd take me. But it was a bit of a closet City fan as well, so I used to end up having to get dragged to Main Road a few times as well in that era. But my love was Oldham, definitely.
Well, funnily enough, that Shrewsbury handsome 3-0 home win in 86-87 was my first game.
Was it really?
Yeah, that was my very first game, and I got the bug from that. So yeah, similar sort of era.
I suspect we're similar ages, aren't we, Andy? I think.
Well,
similar.
I'm pushing it now. I'm not far off 50 now, mate. I'm 3 years off 50.
Yeah, so same really.
Yeah, there we go then. So, who's your first favourite player?
First favourite player from memory. I mean, I used to love Tony Henry, and when you were that small and stuff, you just went off at pictures in a weird way, didn't you? Oh, he looks good. You know what I mean? Off a picture and a program, and then after watching him a bit, I think when you actually appreciate the silky skills and whatnot, it was. I think it was Andy Ritchie always for me. He's just had everything. He had everything. He 2 feet, head. Every ability in the book. It was just Rolls Royce of a player. I mean, I know young fans really they'll probably be tussing and rolling their eyes at someone our age, waxing lyrical about the likes of Andy Ritchie and stuff. But it was the best player we've ever had in my book. So
he's magic, JB.
That's it. for a good reason.
Yeah.
He did magic things, yeah. And I mean, he's a massive part of any success we had, really, wasn't he? I think.
He was, yeah. He's probably our most gifted player. So I think this is the question that I remember being the interesting one, but we'll find out. What's your favourite Latics-related memory?
Well, favourite memory, right, was I think. Well, it was 89-90 season, so we're talking, big cup run, stuff like that. And my dad had started to take me to a few like long away games. I think that season I could choose between Watford and West Ham away because they were back to back in December, and I chose Watford and we got hammered 3-0, and then we won 2-0 at West Ham, which I didn't go to, which was really annoying. But then if a month later we played Southampton, obviously in that replay, and I convinced my dad to sort of whittle me out of school, like with a dodgy stomachache or something like that. And all my mates in the class were Latics fans. There were loads of us in that class, and I could remember going out with like the Peter KVs on my cheek as I was getting brought out of the class, in middle of geography or something mid-morning, and we jumped on the Oldham Athletic official rattler down to Southampton, which was. It was like the all afternoon jobbing, going about 20 mile an hour all the way, stuff like that. Loads of people sat around, like just no kids on it. It was just like me, and all these grown men playing cards and having a laugh and stuff. And it was just brilliant. You know what I mean? It was like fantastic. And then the whole thing, the whole game itself. I mean, we actually got in early because Lowe's got locked out that day. So we got in like 2 hours before kickoff. And I got plonked on a wall, like next to a steward, like right above that little terrace where everyone's packed in, like, sardines. And I just saw everything. It were like, and it were a tinderbox. It had like, just every little tackle that was just going off left, right, and centre. And it was just brilliant, you know what I mean? And getting back at 4 a.m. and stuff like that, it was like, I mean, my dad nearly kicked off with a Southampton fan, you know what I mean? It was like, my dad's the most placid person you'll ever get. And he was, he was like, sort of like someone's like drawing his line across his neck, I'm going to kill you after the game and all that. My dad. So it was just, I mean, if I could relive that day and night again, oh man, I'd pay anything.
So for those who haven't connected it, that probably aren't old enough, that is the Littlewoods Cup quarter-final game at Southampton on a Tuesday night. And you've been taken out of school in the middle of the day. I mean, I remember, my mum and dad won't take me to those. I don't think I went further south than Birmingham that year. I wasn't allowed Watford, West Ham, none of those. Southampton on Tuesday, no chance. So to have done that and taken a day off school and
literally, like, I mean, they were fuming, like a lot of my mates. They were just like going, "Oh, the bastard,"
And your favourite player popped up with a late equaliser.
He scored 2 that match. He was late equaliser. I mean. In them days, you didn't give anything up. You even thought, "Oh, I got a chance here." You know what I mean? And you know what I mean. Now, you go 2-1 down to like, Boreham Wood, and you're going, "Well, that's it, isn't it?" But then it was just you're in it, you're in it, and we were, and I think that I do remember that's the first ever time they put the Champagne on Ice song came out as well.
Yeah.
So
last week against Altrincham, I'd given up. When we went 2-1 down, and midway through the second half, I was just like, "Oh, there's no chance we're going to," and we obviously did. But I think it's interesting. It's a good segue into what happened yesterday, because I just watched the highlights on YouTube, but it's not the usual extended ones. It's just it was very brief. And watched the interview with Mickey Mellon, and it was really interesting. He was visibly and audibly very, very disappointed, Mickey Mellon. He seemed quite dejected, actually, in his mood. And he said that the whole fixture lacked passion, which he said was surprising because it was an FA Cup tie. Said that our passing was very poor. He described it as a bit huff and puffy. What's your take on it, Jamie, as someone who was there?
Yeah, well, I'll put a disclaimer on it because, I mean, I say I was there, but I missed the first 5 minutes. I went for a piss and then missed the goal. Then I decided to go for a pint about 5 minutes early. Then I missed about 15 minutes of the second half because I was still in the club bar, which was really nice, the little half-time sort of supporters, little social thing they've got. And then we buggered off early, like, with about 5 minutes to go because we were. So I saw the second goal. I mean, if you want cutting edge insights yesterday, there were a few others that were there that might have saw a bit more than me. But I mean, I did see enough of the game to form an opinion. So it weren't very good. I think it was bang on, was Mickey. It was a flat game. It were one of them where they just took control of it early doors and just we really didn't get out of their half much. I know we created a couple of chances here and there, but we didn't get out of their half. And I think it was interesting yardstick to see what we're like against a team that's a bit division above now, and where we're up to in our progress. And I think it really hit home that we are a bit behind really, on where we're at. I mean, it was a bit of a free hit, wasn't it? Yesterday, it's an FA Cup match. I mean, it's nice to go. Obviously, I think we need the money as well. It's nice to get through at the round, but yeah, I mean, priority is getting in that playoffs this year, and I think I could probably stomach it a bit yesterday because it's nothing to lose as such. But it weren't very good. It would as poor as it often has been.
It's the manner though, in which we lost the game, which is disappointing. When it's a cup game, it's you look at. Result of the day yesterday was obviously Aldershot, wasn't it? They won 7-4 away at Swindon. They went 7-0 up. Yeah, I mean that's a team that's in our division playing a League Two team away. I mean, God knows what happened. I don't think anyone can quite put their finger on that. But I mean, I watched the goal. I've seen the goals. That their first goal. I mean, it's a long diagonal ball over to their left-sided player. Freeman don't get anywhere near him, puts a ball, it goes all the way through the box, past absolutely everybody. It's a good finish, to be fair. Both the goals were good finishes, but they were, there's absolutely no pressure on the guy for both strikes. So disappointing. Our strikers all missed chances, didn't they? We're often saying that we've got this abundance of strikers, but they need to be scoring, don't they? They all had good chances. Now, to be fair, that save from their goalkeeper for Nuttall's header was absolutely fantastic save. But yeah, I mean, what's your take on it, Andy? I mean, we're out again. This time last year, it was Wrexham won it. We got absolutely pummeled away at Wrexham last year in the first round. Do you measure? Is there any kind of yardstick, or is it? Are we just kind of going over same old ground week in, week out now? Is this going to be the pattern for the rest of the season?
It's just further highlights for me the inadequacies of recruitment over the summer. Really, that's the major problem. People. David Unsworth was done. He was cooked. He wasn't getting anything out of it. He'd had a whole year and the summer to get recruitment right with his head of recruitment, Steve Thompson, and that relationship didn't work, obviously, and that failed. And people wanted David Unsworth gone a long time ago to bring someone with experience like Mickey Mellon, who would instantly get more out of the same set of players, and hasn't, because the same set of players, Mickey Mellons can't wave a wand around and turn them into, better footballers. They are what they are. And the balance of the squad is the balance of the squad recruited by the people who did it over the summer. So, we know we need players. We need quite a few. There's quite a few players that are just not up to scratch. Newport are in the bottom half of League Two, and I don't imagine, the sort of 60 minutes or so Jamie saw yesterday would suggest that we can compete with a team comfortably in the bottom half of League Two. I don't think we can. I think we're miles off that at the minute, which is, look at Chesterfield today. Chesterfield have knocked out Portsmouth, who are top of League One, right? There's a massive gap between Chesterfield and us. There's a massive gap between Barnet and us. Aldershot, who we stuffed 5-1 at the start of the season, are in the playoffs and have gone on an amazing run. And you talked about them scoring 7 yesterday. Obviously, it's a fantastic. Swindon have got problems, interestingly enough, even though they've got rid of their rubbish owner and in theory got a better owner in. I'm not sure the better owner. There's rumours of unpaid tax bills and wages starting to raise their head again. And so there could possibly be problems in the background there that's affecting that. That's not to take anything away from Aldershot. We've obviously done well. I think the only bit of heart I take out of our current plight is we're absolutely abysmal. Bobbins, rubbish. And yet we're 10th, 4 points outside the playoffs. And that is the only bit of sort of hope I take from this, is we could still sneak in there and have a pop. But my only sort of the bit I temper that with is we're going to need to sign 3-4 players. I don't think we're going to be able to spend a lot of money on them because I think the budget has been done. So we're going to have to move players on to be able to do that. And I'm not sure that's going to be very easy. Or we're going to be taking on players that clubs don't want. And we're going to be in a situation where we're signing players like we signed last sort of pre-season, who are marginally better than what we've got at best. And so you end up with players now that you just don't need, and you've got them on 2-3 year contracts and what have you. So I think unfortunately, I think it's a bit of we're still quite a way off, and all that's happening each week is it's proving that to be the case, and we've just got to be a bit patient. I mean, I don't know about you, I haven't really been on social media. I'm kind of done with it a little bit. I look every now and again for information, but it just starts to tire me out a little bit. I've had people screenshotting stuff and sending it to me, and there's all sorts of people on there already going, how long before we can talk about Mellon out? I mean, I know some people are doing it in an ironic fashion, but there are some people that are already on that bandwagon, and you're like, I can't be bothered. I'm like, you've just got to let this season wash out. We might get into the top 7, we might not. Mark White might be right. He said 8th at the start of the season. Feels about right.
He did. Yeah.
I think we're the way I look at it. I think one thing that I've noticed since we went down, and in fact the season before we went down as well, the season we went down, is how very few matches we actually control in midfield. I think that's the kind of key thing he's got to get right. Once you get that right, and I think that's what nearly all the teams at the top of the National League, they've just got really strong midfields. Really high pressing. They don't have masses of quality about them all. They just really, they don't give you a minute on the ball. They just give you literally like seconds and they're onto you, and I think you can't really do that higher up you go because players are that good, are much better on the ball. So you go high pressing and they just bypass you. So I think what we've got to do is we just got to get midfielders in who can tackle really, because we just struggled on the ball.
Well, you look at Chesterfield today. You look at Chesterfield, all that fanfare over Will Grigg over the summer. Actually, Chesterfield's main signing in the summer was Tom Naylor, and he scored again today for him. He scored quite a lot from midfield. Probably scored the same amount as Grigg has this season from midfield. Yeah, he looks like he's signing from Wigan, didn't he? He looks like the type of player, a player dropping down from League One in centre midfield role. He's clearly running that team. He's got Colclough out wide, and he's got they signed that other lad Berry from Macclesfield, and they've got Grigg up front, and it just look they've got a decent side. We've got Norwood in there. I've seen people criticising Norwood, like Norwood's the best striker we've got. There's no argument about that. But the lad isn't going to be able to create goals from nothing. So he needs players in that midfield that are going to create goals for him, and we just haven't got any for the point you just raised. So this is the issue really, and until it's resolved, and I don't think unless we're going to get the checkbook out, which I don't think we're going to do because I think we've done the budget, and the budget is the budget. I think we'll probably wait until the summer to see if we can clear players out and go again, and we'll have to see if Mickey Mellon is in charge of that, or if there's someone who's going to come in, in a recruitment director of football type role to work alongside him. Because I'm not sure Mickey Mellon's recruitment history at Tranmere has been overly great. I think, interestingly enough, bringing Brabin in, I think Brabin was the person at Tranmere who was credited with bringing in the players that eventually Mellon got going, because Brabin sort of preceded him. So if that's the case, and Brabin has got the eye on recruitment, then fine. But we're just going to have to find out. It's going to take some time, I think.
I think it's important that them two have got a positive relationship. You know, that's the crucial thing. You know, I do have a few doubts that relationship just wasn't there with Unsworth and Thompson. And if they've got a good relationship and they're on the same page and the same, you know, songbook, then it could and possibly should work with a decent budget. You know, over. A point of note as well with Chesterfield. I mean, and the same with Notts County and Wrexham, and I know they had money, Wrexham, but it did take a few seasons to actually get there. You know, they've had. I'm sure they've had games and seasons like we're having and we've had as well. So you know, that's it sometimes. You know, I know we keep banging that drum, but patience is needed. I think, you know, sometimes.
I think Stockport as well. You know, that Stockport, Wrexham, and County, they're all at the top of League Two at the minute. Look like three of them will go up, and I reckon Chesterfield will probably be near the top end of League Two when they go up as well. Yeah. So it's we're going to need to sort of be a bit more patient. I was just in the week, for some reason I ended up on Tuesday night listening because we had no game in the midweek. Right, so I was kind of at a loose end. I've got this routine on a Tuesday where I'm into the stream, getting ready to watch Latics get stuffed off some Southern Leisure Centre and talk about on this podcast the following weekend. I had nothing to do, so I listened to a bit of football. So it was League Cup, 4th round, right? So round before the quarterfinals, and I was listening, and it was Exeter City versus Middlesbrough, right at St James Park. They were calling it. Since when was it called that? St James's Park, isn't it? St James's Park. I'd be confused. So anyway, I'm listening to this commentary, and it was raucous. The atmosphere was, you could feel, you know, on when you can listen to the radio and you can feel the atmosphere. It's packed. Exeter, they've got Middlesbrough down there. Middlesbrough got Michael Carrick in. They've thrown money at it. You know, they've signed these players. They were talking about the players that Middlesbrough had signed, players from Atalanta. And one from the MLS and one from Australia and all this sort of stuff. And you've got all these players in there, these fancy damn players. And Exeter have just got a load of youth players and stuff that they've recruited from the lower leagues, and they're just having a go, right? And on loanees, you got a lad on loan who's 20 from Brentford. Bear in mind, in Exeter in League One, it does make you think about the loan situation. I hear people at Latics say, "Why don't we just get players on loan?" Like, we're in Division 5. They don't want to send them down this far. That's why we can't get them on loan. Not the good ones, anyway. So they got this lad on loan from Brentford who scored for them. And they're absolutely hammer and tongs Exeter having a go at them. I think they got beat 3-2 in the end, but they had a good go. And it just reminded me of those days that James described earlier when we were having a go at everyone who came at us. And you think about Exeter City, they'd never reached the quarterfinal of the League Cup, apparently, ever. Right? That's as far as they've ever gone. They've never been in the Championship. League One is the highest they've ever been. They're fan-owned by their trust. Fan-owned. And they're in League
Been for a while as well, yeah.
Yeah. We interviewed them a couple of seasons ago. We got all the audio from that. You know, you think about with the right structure and patience, that's what that club can achieve. And I'm sat there listening to it, and I'm thinking, we're bigger than Exeter. Yeah. We are bigger than Exeter. We can do better than that. And therefore, you know, it just reminds you of those days. And then you listen to I listened to BBC Radio Wales on Saturday and listened to, you know, the commentary was just laughable, really. But it was, you know, the description of us was what we
It felt a bit weird that we were, like say, you'll have to go back about 3 or 4 years, and Newport would have been the plucky underdogs, and we're the big fish, and it just felt a bit weird that we were there as the plucky, they're the bigger fish, really. But like you say, really they're not. They just, it's just symptomatic of how far we've fallen again,
And it doesn't take long for people to just perceive us as just a small club now, like a small non-league club. You know what I mean? It's not like people occasionally when you're playing some of the sort of, someone like Dorking, there's always a comparison, or Oldham were in the Premier League and all this, but now it's just kind of nobody expects us to be any good. Nobody expects us to, but I think people are probably a lot of people I speak to. They say, "Oh, I support Oldham. Oh, where are they now? In League One?" Like, no, we're in National League, because they don't really pay attention. But it is gonna take time. It's going to take as long as it's going to take. It's going to be really frustrating, no doubt, because it's Oldham, isn't it? But at some point on in the future. Well, I'm sure we'll be competing in cups again and all that kind of stuff and competing in the league. But I was actually quite pleased to see how pissed off Mickey Mellon was in his interview. I think he's under no illusions as to how tough this is going to be this season with the players he's got. I don't think he's very impressed with what he's getting out of his players. So I presume he's going to be working on really, really hard. He's going to be trying to, work on the shape and the passing and all this kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see, bearing in mind he's only had a few games, so at some point after Christmas, what he's actually able to achieve with them. Like you said before, Andy, we're totally in the mix for the playoffs. There's no doubt about that, and it's just a case of seeing what he can do. But he'll have to earn his salt.
I believe we've obviously we signed a goalkeeper this week, haven't we? Because I believe Norman's injured, so we signed some lad that Gateshead have binned off. Which I mean, I don't know anything about him, but you do instantly always think. It's my natural reaction. I can't help it. Like what Gateshead don't want him, and we take him. You're like, oh, okay.
Was it this season, or was it this season or last season when we played Gateshead and their goalkeeper made 2 absolute howlers?
Yeah, it weren't him.
It weren't him. Well, that's all. I just wanted to check.
That's the first thing that I checked when we realised we'd signed him. I went, I hope it weren't that Thunderhead. And I checked, and I was like a big sigh of relief when I realised it wasn't. But then, it doesn't come with 5-star TripAdvisor reviews, does it? So let's be honest, it's just where it is, isn't it?
The lad we've signed is the one that couldn't get into the team.
For him,
I think he's got 2. I think he's got 2 hands, so that's helpful. So anyway, we'll see.
We'll see how we go. I believe there's rumours about that there is a player about to leave us on loan. Who's like you would consider part of the first team squad. So it looks like Mickey's trying to sort of do some wheeling and dealing, but I just don't think it's going to be very easy to make much. We're not going to see wholesale changes now. I can't see that being.
No,
the
he's
case.
going to have to get the most out of what he's got, isn't he? And just that's the thing. He's got 3 years, and as long as he makes a better start to his 3 years than David Unsworth, then we just have to be patient and get behind him, don't we?
I mean, a little bit of perspective. If you look at the league table, we're not a million miles away from just getting in there in some way, and we're at this point of the table because even though we are pretty crap, so you'd think with I think it's very easy to see which players will probably be out of favour. It's the ones that just don't put a shift in. He likes players that put a shift in. Simple as that. And there's plenty of players who I think everyone knows who they are in the red, who just don't put a shift in, who just don't do the defensive side of the game, or they don't, So there will be. There's bound to be players that already are out. He's probably seen enough of them. And it would have been. It's not. I mean, look, it would have been keeping an eye on us before he got the job. I would have expected. So he will have to know at least something about some of the players. He's going to have to sort of wheel the deal a bit, I think. And like I say, one really good midfielder, for example, could really transform a lot of it. You know what I mean? It won't be like for example with McGarry. Is it McGarry? How you pronounce it?
Apparently it's pronounced McGarry.
Well, the 2 games where he played in midfield, Altrincham and Rochdale, we just transformed us. We just looked a less soft touch, in that area. And we haven't seen him there since, obviously for various reasons. But that's an example of how we can lift the team just with that change alone. You know what I mean? So yeah,
and Dan Gardner as well. Obviously, when he's been in the team and he's been fit, it's made a big difference on it. So
yeah. So
I mean, did I read social media right yesterday when it said that Dickinson went off presumably injured, or was that tactical?
No, he was injured, I think.
Yeah. So they brought Hogan on, and if I'm reading it right, they played Hogan at left back.
Yeah, it is.
And Kitchen on the left wing.
Yeah. Push Kitchen up. I thought at first he's gone 3-5-2, but No, they had four. They had Friedman in the same position and Hogan left back, which it did work actually. It stopped us getting a bit overrun a little bit. It gave them something to think about with Kitchen getting further forward. So it did make an improvement. It wasn't a brilliant leap.
Well, it just goes to show, doesn't it, as well? The fullback situation.
Yeah.
We've not got another left back to go in, and we've only got one right back.
Yeah,
so we've got one right back, one left back.
That's right. But he did show that he is watching games and he changes it. He sees it's not working for 20 minutes, and I'm pretty sure he came off because he was injured. He had a niggle or something, but. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'd have made some sort of change anyway. I think his tactical side of things isn't. I can't really question much on that. I think he's done okay. I think since he's come in, but apart from failed, but we'll rub that off the memory bank, won't we? Quite clearly.
It's just funny how we've got how we keep doing this, putting a square peg in a round hole on a triangle square. In a square. Every week we've got some mix and match sticking plaster over something. Instead of being able to field everyone in sensible positions that they all play in and trying to get out there. And that, for me, that comes back to now when you look back at it, how wasted that summer was. I think every time I think about this season, as the years progress and the memories fade of all these litany of horrendous seasons of which I've witnessed, I sort of hold on to one memory from every season that's the memory bank that I relate to for that year. And this year's memory bank is going to be Southend away for me. That is going to be my memory of this season because it was full of hope and full of expectation, and it was dashed so dramatically on the very first day. And that'll be my memory.
I think it was about 5 minutes, weren't it? It wasn't after. It was just after 5 minutes. A collective sinking of popping of hopes. I was like, oh my God, what is this? What is this?
I know what you're about to say, Matt. I know what you're about to say. You're about to say it's not over yet. We could get in the playoffs, and
exactly. It could be the playoffs. It could be.
It won't.
It probably won't, but we have to go through the rest of the season, like getting up at the crack of dawn on a Sunday morning to record this podcast, don't we? We have to have some hope. We have to have some hope, Andy, that it's good. We're not going to be talking about the same vulnerabilities and frailties within the squad for the whole season. And it'd just be nice to be in touching distance, by the end of the season. Let's have a bit of faith that Mickey can. That he can bring one or two players in that make a difference and start getting more out of, and he putting a rocket up some of them and saying, look, you're going to be out of here. You're going to be out of here. This is the level you're going to be playing at. If you keep putting in performances like this, you're at Oldham Athletic in the National League. Like, there's a journey that we're going on here. And if you don't put your ideas up, you're going to be finding yourself back at, wherever, whichever, National League North team or average National League team you came from. And I think that's got, he's got to try and motivate his players to want to keep the job, basically. I know some of them are on contracts, but we'll have to do that again at the end of the season, and they won't, with the squad pod, see who's likely to stay, likely to go, etc. But
I'm a bit sorry, go on, Andy, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say the problem is we're doing that is we keep giving people contract extensions that I'd like to get rid of.
Yeah, I'm a bit reticent to actually. I'd rather not be on that squad pod, to be honest, because I'm a bit reticent to criticise. I mean, last time I came on, I think if I can remember rightly what I said about Jordan Clark, I said I'd deposit him myself on the moors and leave him there, and then at the end of season, Latics Junior Latics sort of thing. Who was on our lane? Jordan Clark. I couldn't even look him in the eye. So I felt really, really bad actually. Just in case I end up bumping into and meeting them at some sort of event at the end of the season, I'll just say. I think I know who's not a good player, but I won't say it.
Well, sometimes look, we've seen it many a time when sometimes the player they just need to be somewhere else, and they're better in a different team, in a different club, different environment, whatever. Like Alex Reid when he came on the phone in, he was honest enough to be able to say that the game previous, I think it was Dagenham and Redbridge, I'm not sure, that he wasn't good enough. He didn't, his performance wasn't good enough, and they have to know that themselves as individuals, don't they? I mean, they're professionals, so they've got their own standards and their own targets to achieve, and all the players in that team, must feel that they're falling short. It's it's collective and individual responsibility. We've got to get James Norwood playing with a smile on his face. We've got to get him playing like he actually wants to be here and he's enjoying his time at the club, because it's not looking like that at the minute. And that'll only happen, like it's already been mentioned today, when he gets lots of chances, so he can score lots of goals, and his team aren't giving away stupid goals and all that stuff. So a lot of work to do, but yeah, we'll get there in the end eventually. Yeah. Do you just want to introduce? We'll drop that the conversation in that you had with Danny.
Yeah, so I had a chat to Danny Taylor of PTB fame yesterday. So we had a bit of a chat about women's football, Latics and women's football, and what he's been doing in that space as well. So this is that interview. Welcome back, Danny Taylor, to the podcast. It's been a while, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. How are yourself?
Yeah, well, we're recording this just after the final whistle. So we're out the FA Cup this year.
Yeah, I didn't go today, but it weren't the best of draws, really, and I didn't really fancy us to get anything, and it showed, really. Obviously 2-0, and didn't really sound like we had much of the play at all, really. So disappointing, but back to the league now. Yeah,
I think it possibly highlights, doesn't it, the gap and, the work we've got to do really to get back to where we want to be.
Definitely.
But anyway, we're not here to talk about that because we've already done that on this episode. So we're here to talk about a combination of things. First, women's football, and second, the FA Cup. So you're heavily involved in women's football, aren't you? And you have been for quite a while.
Yeah.
What would you say? If you think about the England team and the England women's team and what they've done amazing things. And really, if you look at, the WSL, it's definitely growing, isn't it, as a product?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, there's 2 professional leagues, and then 1 professional team in the National League, which is the 3rd tier of women's football. But it is growing. Obviously, the women winning the Euros in a couple of years ago, and then losing in the World Cup final to Spain in the summer. So obviously, that captured the interest amongst the nation. And yeah, like I said, it is a growing game. Crowds are getting slightly higher. It'd be nice to see more at women's football, but people spend a pretty penny watching the male side of the game, so can't really be expected until the women's obviously keep growing the game and it becomes a lot more attractive to the average person, basically.
Yeah, and the quality's getting better and better. You watch some of those England games and you do ponder, don't you? How would that women's team get on in the men's game? They'd probably give some professional men's game a bit of a fright. I think the way they move the ball around. So yeah, it's definitely getting better. Who is the only professional team in the 3rd tier of the women's pyramid then?
I was getting onto this. Newcastle United have just been promoted from Tier 4 to Tier 3, and obviously with the Saudi takeover, I think they were keen to get the women on board and make them a professional outfit, much like the men's, really. So Newcastle United.
So Newcastle United are in the 3rd tier of the women's pyramid, and they're the only professional team in there. What about Latics? You were involved in the Latics girls team some time ago, weren't you? Just give us a bit of that backstory.
Yeah, so I coached. My sister-in-law initially played for Oldham Athletic girls from the age of, I think, about 11 or 12. I got involved in coaching when they turned under 16s. They got into the under 16s cup final and lost to Blackburn and Darwin. Then they went up to under 18s, and me and Dave Else, fellow Latics fan, were managers there, and it ended up being quite sour in the end, unfortunately, due to me being involved in Push the Boundary and protests against Abdallah. Even though it was a separate entity and stuff like that, they didn't think it was good publicity for the club and wanted me to step back. So there's a funny story, really, because I did the initial protest at Latics at Colchester United home game in probably August 2019, potentially. And I got a phone call the next day from Natalie Atkinson, the managing director at the time, and she said, look, you can carry on coaching, but only if you stop protesting. So I was like, oh, I could see the way it was going under Abdallah, like many others could, and sadly that took precedent over me coaching an under-18 setup. So that team then disbanded at the end of the season. A few girls went off to uni. I know your niece did, coach your niece at Latics, and so that team disbanded. Now, it has gone from strength to strength since, I believe, and they've got teams all the way up to under-16s. So again, hopefully we'll see a Latics team in the not so distant future.
Yeah, it'd be good to see, wouldn't it? With the way that the club's being run now, that'll be brought under one umbrella, and hopefully get a decent full ladies, adult ladies team entered into a league system and see how they can get on. So, at that time, what was Latics? What Latics missed out on, Mancunian Unity benefited from. Do you want to give us just a bit of a backstory about that club that you were involved in?
Yeah, so it was a mate founded the club in 2019, but in the summer, and whilst obviously I was coaching at the time at Oldham, he founded the team after a player approached him, having played at another professional league club, and was bullied at the time from fellow teammates, a divide at that team. And there was her and two or three others that wanted, either to quit football or to just move to a different team. Now, at the time, Phil Burt, the founder and first team manager now, he decided basically to set up his own team, and that's how it was born, really, in 2019. He didn't have a kit, so I had to find a sponsor to pay for a kit. Didn't have a home ground, didn't have any training facilities, didn't have any players initially. Built it all from scratch, really, and it's gone from strength to strength since then.
And tell us the journey you've been on. So what league did you begin in, and where have you been over the course of what is only 4 seasons in effect?
Yeah, the first 2 seasons in effect were curtailed due to COVID. So we started in the Greater Manchester Women's Football League Division 1, which is the equivalent of the 8th tier of women's football. But they kept the League Cup, the Divisional Cup at the time, and we ended up winning the Divisional Cup against AFC Stockport 4-1 at the end of the season, if you like. So the first full season really was 2021-22. We lost the first game, ironically, to Ermston Meadowside, but they folded about 4 weeks later, so that result was expunged. And we didn't lose another competitive game up until the Manchester FA County Cup final in the following May. They were at the time 3 leagues higher than us, and we lost to a last-minute goal, last-minute heartbreak. So during that season, we won the equivalent of Tier 8 to get promoted to the Premier Division, won the Divisional Cup and the Greater Manchester Women's Challenge Cup, which included all the teams, including the Premier Division. And then last season, again, went from strength to strength, won the league, won the Challenge Cup again, won the Divisional Cup again, so 2 back-to-back trebles, lost in the County Cup, but we appeared in the FA Cup for the first time last year, beat our local rivals 8-0 at Atletico Middleton, and then we went to Tranmere Rovers and didn't perform and got absolutely walloped 6-1 in the second qualifying round. So obviously on to this season, and we've started the season well in Tier 6, played 6-1-6. So
you've gone up 2 divisions from Tier 8 to Tier 6, and you got Tranmere. Where are Tranmere in the women's pyramid?
They're in Tier 5, so they
were
2 divisions higher than us when we played them last season.
And then and as you just described, that there is a women's FA Cup, which is a bit like the men's FA Cup in as much as it includes all teams and all the way to the top Premier professional sides. And so your progress, obviously, with it being an FA Cup weekend, like Latics men's team have just exited the FA Cup today. What's your progress been through your FA Cup venture this season then?
Yeah, we've played all sides in the Tier 6 as well. So they were all fellow Tier 6 sides. We beat Mosley Hill, who are from Liverpool. We beat them 6-5 in a bit of a humdinger in the Avro in the first qualifying round of the FA Cup. We played FC St Helens in the second qualifying round of the FA Cup. Won 5-1 there. And then we went to Penrith in the third qualifying round and won 5-3 up there as well. So managed to qualify for the first round proper for the first time, obviously, in the club's history. And we're one of only 18 clubs across England that are Tier 6 or lower in the first round proper of the FA Cup.
So you're one of the lowest teams in the first round proper of the Women's FA Cup. And who have you drawn?
Newcastle United at home. So it was quite surreal when we got the draw out, and a team that was made from absolutely nothing really in 2019. Newcastle United come out, and we're now playing them at home at Avro on next Sunday, 12th of November.
So your home ground is Avro for all league games as well, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've drawn them at home. You're at Avro. Yeah. It's Newcastle United. They're a professional run football club. So from a team that you guys have started and created only 4 years ago, you're playing your first professional team. So it's going to be a bit of a do for you to see how you get on. And this is really, it's a fabulous story, Danny. You should be really proud of yourself. I know Mia loved being coached by you, so you're obviously good at what you do. So this is a bit of a call for all Latics fans. When's the game? What's the time?
Sunday, the 12th of November. The time of the kickoff is 2:30. So we'll be putting everything out on social media, linked to buy tickets. See, the capacity at Avro is 1,300, but Avro were expecting, when we had the pre-game meeting, if you like, on Friday, they're expecting up to 1,000 to attend. So we're, again, anyone that wants to watch a local game of women's football and a chance to see a Tier 6 side take on a Tier 3 side, and the irony of our players paying £30 a month to play football, coming up against players that get paid for the privilege of doing so. So all the makings of a David versus Goliath story, but I should imagine it'll be a monumental task to go toe to toe with them for sure.
Absolutely. So any Latics fans are now at a loose end on Sunday the 12th, 2:30 kickoff. Get yourself down to Avro and give Danny Taylor a bit of support. All the best, Danny.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so it's a good story, isn't it? He's done well for himself, and it shows you really what Latics could think about in that space. We've obviously got girls teams running up to under 16s, but it would be great for Latics to have especially when the men are rubbish. It'd be great if we had a girls team. At least have someone to go and support.
Good on you, Danny.
Yeah. No, it's well done, and good luck next week. But and it makes sense to not start from scratch as well, doesn't it? In that sense,
it would be. I mean, hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, but I think possibly if the club were potentially to approach Danny and the people at Mancunian Unity, you could potentially have a conversation there to bring that club under the Latics umbrella as a senior sort of adult ladies team. So I wouldn't advise against it. I think it'd be a worthwhile conversation. So good luck to Danny next week, and I hope his team don't do as well as he can and try and turn over Newcastle.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Yeah, that'd be a great story, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Should we do Latics Mind?
Yeah.
Before we do that, can we just wish Paul Prendergast best of health, because I think he's had a bit of a health scare. I think last week he's had to take a bit of time off work and that. But I think it's not a serious one, but it's one way he's just had to take a bit of time out from things. So yeah, all best, Paul, and get well soon.
Yeah, I'm sure he's listens every week. Hope you're well, Paul. See you soon.
Yeah. But yeah. So, I just don't want to get a dreaded 0, really.
I've had a look. I've had a scan down, and I reckon there's a couple of favourable ones for people of our age, Jamie and here.
Oh, that's it. Just put more pressure on and they go on. Well, anyway.
Good luck.
Yeah, go on.
Who scored a hat-trick at Chesterfield in 2011?
Pass.
Who knocked Latics out of the FA Cup in 2000-2001 in a replay at Boundary Park? Chelsea lay in wait for the winners at Stamford Bridge.
Peterborough.
Correct. Which prolific striker scored over 20 league goals in 1977-78? No one would repeat that for another 29 years.
Les Chapman?
No, Steve Taylor. Latics have been in the playoffs 3 times. In which season did they place the lowest in the top 6?
2002-3. No,
Wrong.
no. Yeah,
6-7.
Hello. Go on.
Who knocked Latics out of the FA Cup in 2019-20?
Pass.
Who scored the first goal in front of the new Chadieng stand once it was a covered facility with seats in it?
Ian Marshall.
Correct. Who was Latics' top scorer in 2007-2008?
Chris Porter.
Craig Davis. In what year did the Rochdale Road stand, when it became a covered stand, open?
1992-93 season. 92.
Correct. Which striker did Latics sign from Nottingham Forest in 1990?
David Curry.
Correct. Against who did Earl Barrett make his England debut against in the summer of 1991?
New Zealand.
Correct. Who was Joe Royle's last win against in his first spell as manager?
Port Vale.
Oh, Portsmouth.
Oh, so
Right.
annoyed with a couple of them.
Right, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 correct answers.
Oh, it's a good
That
score.
is decent, that.
Respectable.
That is
Respectable.
decent, that. You got 2 passes in there.
Yeah.
Now, when I read this question out, I read it out as who scored a hat-trick at Chesterfield in 2011. But actually, the question does say, there's a slight spelling mistake in it. The question should read, who scored a hat-trick versus Chesterfield in 2011?
Ooh. It was, I think, was it a cup match? FA Cup? Robbie Simpson.
That's the correct answer.
No.
Oh, I'm claiming that. I'm claiming that. Mark it on 6.
Well, we're getting adjudicators on this one.
Oh, man.
Your other pass was who knocked Latics out of the FA Cup in 2019-20?
Yeah. COVID
Was
season.
do you know?
There's too many teams knocked us out of the FA Cup. It's hard to remember, isn't it?
It was another traditionally shit team that are smaller.
Yeah, Cheltenham or something like that.
Burton Albion.
Yeah. You know, yeah. They just siege into one all that crap, don't it? You know what I mean? But yeah. Thanks. There was a couple of favourable ones in my ball. But that David Curry one, I don't know where that was in my head. That just come out. I don't know. Weird things there, isn't there? It just sat in your head, just lying dormant until this moment. So yeah. So yeah, I'll take that. I'll take a 5.5.
He was a funny one, wasn't he, David Curry? He scored some good goals for us, didn't he? But he was never, because up against the type of players that we had in the squad at the time, like he was. But like now, we'd love someone of his quality.
Well, I think Andy would be the same as me, because I think when we signed him, we were like, "Oh, what a player!" Because he was a beast for Barnsley against us. He used to score loads of goals, didn't he? I remember going to the away game with my dad,
where we went to Barnsley away. So you did, it's quite an easy journey in it, driving over the tops to go to Barnsley.
That 4-3 one or something, was it?
4-3. Yeah, open terrace in January. It's absolutely freezing. I think we got beat 4-3. Yeah. And Curry scored a hat-trick for Barnsley that day, and he looked immense. So when we signed Curry, you were like, brilliant. But what was interesting is because you don't see him every week, you only see the flashes of what he lacked was a heart, wasn't it? He had a bit of skill about him, but he lacked heart. He back out of tackles. I mean, that the famous one is he could have put us 1-0 up at Old Trafford.
I was just about to say that. Yeah,
he backed out of a 60-40 in favour of him against Peter Schmeichel. He backed out of it. And he should have scored. So that's where he lacked heart. When you think about some of the players in our squad today lacking heart, you could probably name half a dozen of them, couldn't you?
Oh yeah. I mean, but I think it were you just did back then. It just wasn't acceptable from any player. You know what I mean? To do that. That was just literally one thing. It got drilled into you. If you're 50-50, you're going to win it. You know, and I remember that clear as day because I'm pretty sure he hardly played. Or he didn't play much after that. I think he just literally got dropped straight away, didn't he? And
it was an era when footballers had tashes and didn't back out of tackles.
That's right.
David Curry had one of those things, obviously, not the other.
Good old David Curry. I can't believe he devoted about 5 minutes of this show to David Curry as well. But, there you go. That's the organic nature.
See, this is what happens to the show. If you think about it, when Matt delays it to an afternoon kickoff, then what happens is all the guests, myself included, end up having 4 or 5 beers in the afternoon before you get on, and it just loses all the control from the podcast. That's got 11:30 records are smooth. Yeah, afternoon records are they're all over the show.
Oh well. Well, I mean, it's Latics and it's a Latics podcast, so it should be all over the show. It reflects the nature of the club. So, and as you know, like we've already said, we're on repeat, aren't we? Talking about what's going on this season. So, we might as well talk about David Curry for a bit. Thank you for listening to the Boundary Park Alert System, a QPod production hosted and produced weekly by Matt Dean, Andy Halliwell and Dave Bradley. QPod is Oldham's only dedicated podcast production company, and if you'd like to learn more about how podcasting can help take your brand to the next level, visit kupod.co.uk. A huge thank you goes to all those people who subscribe to the podcast on Spotify. We really appreciate you all. Please visit oafcpodcast.co.uk and click Be a Supporter or find the link in the show notes if you'd like to help us fund the show. It's only $2.99 per month to subscribe, but if you'd rather make a one-off donation, please visit buymeacoffee.com/OAFC podcast or click the link on our website. Don't miss the Latics football phone-in every Wednesday live from 8:30 p.m. Please visit youtube.com/@OAFC podcast and do hit subscribe while you are there. You can also follow and interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok @OAFC podcast. Big thanks go to Eileen Finnegan for writing our excellent weekly blog, which we encourage you to read on our website every Saturday morning, and also to Paul Prendergast for providing us with all the Latics Mind questions. The title music for the show is by Manchester DJ and producer Starion, and for more information visit bandcamp.com/Red Laser Records. If you'd like to be a guest or contribute to the show, we would love to hear from you. Until then, see you next time.